Under the guidance of the elder, Wang Lin proceeded directly towards the eastern part of the Thunder Immortal Palace. From a distance, he could already see a grand hall that was several times larger than the other palaces, resembling a giant beast lying on the ground. Even before approaching, an overwhelming aura emanated from it. After traveling a few miles, the elder stopped and smiled, saying, "Friend Su, the palace master has summoned only you. I cannot accompany you further. You can go in by yourself." Wang Lin's gaze landed on the grand hall a few miles away. He cupped his hands in gratitude and said, "Thank you, senior, for showing me the way." The elder shook his head and smiled. "I'm no senior. Since the palace master has summoned you, it's clear that you are no ordinary person. In the future, we'll surely meet again." With that, he cupped his hands and left, turning away. Wang Lin cautiously spread his divine sense as he moved forward. Gradually, the distance to the grand hall decreased, and when he neared it, he immediately saw a figure standing in front of the hall. The person stood with his back to Wang Lin, but his presence was as imposing as a mountain. Yin Lazy. Wang Lin was not surprised. He landed nearby and cupped his hands. "I pay my respects to Senior Yin Lazy." Yin Lazy turned around, his expression calm, but there was a hint of surprise in his eyes as they landed on Wang Lin. "Should I address you as Demon Path Scion Su Mu, or as Wang Lin from the Alliance Star Domain?" Early glimpse of Nirvana. "Not bad, very impressive," Yin Lazy remarked. Wang Lin remained composed, showing no signs of panic despite his identity being revealed. He replied flatly, "Su Mu or Wang Lin, it doesn't matter. Since you've called me here, it must not be to discuss my real name, right?" Yin Lazy gave Wang Lin a knowing glance, his lips curling into a smile as admiration flashed in his eyes. "Good. You are indeed someone with great potential. I don't care whether you are Wang Lin or Su Mu. I have a question for you. Will you be willing to participate in the battle of the Alliance Star Domain?" "My strength is still lacking. Even if I participate, it will be of little help," Wang Lin responded after a moment of silence. A cultivator of the glimpse of Nirvana dares to say his strength is lacking? Yin Lazy chuckled, but a cold gleam flashed in his eyes. Wang Lin paused thoughtfully before nodding. "Since Senior Yin Lazy values me so highly, I will participate in this battle." He had already made up his mind before coming here. To contend for one of the 108 immortal titles, he had to be part of the Luo Tian versus Alliance battle. "Good. The token I gave you back then, keep it safe. It might prove useful in the future. Consider it part of the fortune I promised you." Yin Lazy flicked his sleeve, and a gust of wind surrounded Wang Lin. A vortex formed in front of him, crackling with thunder, creating a teleportation array. "Use this array to leave. 3 days from now, I, along with several friends, will personally visit the Immortal Ascension battle. Your senior brother, Qing Shui, will also be there," Yin Lazy said before turning and walking toward the hall. "Senior Yin Lazy, may I retrieve my Thunder Beast?" Wang Lin calmly asked. "Once the passage is opened, it will be returned to you," Yin Lazy replied, disappearing into the hall. Wang Lin stood still for a moment, then stepped into the vortex array. When he reappeared, he was outside the Thunder Immortal Palace, near one of the 4 large teleportation arrays. There was no one around, as everyone had clearly been assigned to different locations. The moment Wang Lin arrived, he turned around and saw a woman standing behind him. She was exceptionally beautiful, almost like a jade sculpture, wearing a green robe and a water-like skirt. "Are you Su Mu, Senior?" the woman asked in a clear, melodious voice. Wang Lin nodded. "I am Chen Shan, sent by the envoy to await you here. This is your Immortal Ascension battle token, which will also guide you to your residence," she said respectfully, taking a palm-sized token from her storage pouch and handing it to Wang Lin. After a brief hesitation, her cheeks flushed slightly as she spoke softly. "If you need a furnace for dual cultivation, you may contact me through the token. The Thunder Immortal Palace will provide all necessary assistance for those participating in the battle." With that, she bowed and retreated, her figure gradually disappearing, revealing a glimpse of her graceful demeanor. Wang Lin held the token and scanned it with his divine sense. It resembled a jade slip, containing a simple map of the Thunder Immortal Palace and an unactivated teleportation array. After locating his residence, Wang Lin's figure flickered, and he hurried toward it. 3 days passed quickly. During this time, Wang Lin remained seated in meditation, maintaining his cultivation at its peak. On the third day, around noon, the Thunder Immortal Palace was bustling. The lights of the teleportation arrays flickered continuously as groups of cultivators arrived. Many people had come to witness the Immortal Ascension, starting with the various cultivation families from the main stars of the 4 great star domains, who only had permission to observe from the outer perimeter. Next came cultivator families from the Luo Tian star domain, who, though secondary to the Yao family, were still above the main stars, such as the Xun'er and Zhan families. Finally, there were the immortal families with direct ties to the immortal realm. The last to appear were the members of 2 ancient immortal cultivation families who had come together with the Thunder Immortal Palace to witness the immortal conferment event. Although not an overwhelmingly large crowd, the number of cultivators present reached tens of thousands. Under the arrangement of the Thunder Immortal Palace, floating platforms were set up around the inner hall of the palace, allowing the cultivators to take their seats. The battlefield for the Immortal Conferment was set at the Thunderpool Plaza in the inner hall of the Thunder Immortal Palace, a vast expanse stretching over 1,000 zhang. Outside the Thunderpool Plaza, more than 10 white jade meditation cushions emanated a faint immortal aura. At this moment, Yanlazi sat cross-legged on one of the cushions, while immortal monarch Qingshui, beside him, sat in deep meditation, seemingly uninterested in the happenings around him. As more and more cultivators gathered to watch the battle, an elder from the Xiang family materialized in midair and, with a fist salute to Yanlazi, sat down on a nearby cushion. As they conversed, a figure cloaked in black, from the Gongsun clan, also appeared out of thin air and seated himself nearby. Following that, representatives from the 4 great immortal cultivation families, those who had passed down their legacies to the immortal realm, arrived. Among them was Duya from the Yao family. After his arrival, he, along with the other old monsters, sat cross-legged on the cushions, avoiding even a glance at immortal monarch Qingshui. With the arrival of the Xun'er clan and the Zhan family, the elders of the 2 clans, including Shun Gonghu and Lai Yunzi, also appeared one after another and took their seats on the cushions. Before long, other clan elders from different immortal cultivation families arrived and took their places. By midday, Yanlazi's eyes flashed. Calmly, he spoke. The battle for the immortal ascension titles of the 108 immortals of Luodian begins. His voice rang out like a thunderclap, reverberating through the Thunder Immortal Palace, and with the echo, countless teleportation arrays appeared in the sky. These arrays, all of the same size, revealed the figures of cultivators as they materialized within them. Among them was Wang Lin. Duya glanced upward with a chilling, otherworldly gaze at Wang Lin. After a cold grunt, he turned away, his expression dark. Besides Duya, another pair of eyes in the distant crowd fell upon Wang Lin, Shizi Feng. She bit her lip and gazed silently at Wang Lin in the sky. Her heart ached with a quiet sigh, a hint of confusion flashing in her eyes. Since returning from the Thunder Immortal Realm, Wang Lin had never left her thoughts, especially when she heard of his being hunted by the Yao family. Her heart trembled, yet she had been powerless to help. She had heard of his escape from the pursuit, and her heart was filled with joy, though behind that joy, a deep bitterness lingered. Perhaps he has already forgotten my name. Shizi Feng was undeniably beautiful, a fact she was well aware of. Many talented cultivators from prominent families had expressed their admiration for her, including her cousin, Shizi Mo, the most exceptional member of the Shizi family, who had also held affections for her. However, she had always been indifferent to such matters, never once considering the idea of dual cultivation. Her dream was to become a powerful female cultivator, just like the family ancestors. Yet, everything had changed since meeting Wang Lin. Even she herself was now uncertain, especially with that vivid memory of hundreds of cultivators charging into the teleportation array at the Thunder Immortal Palace. The shock of hearing, "Make way," ringing in her mind. Shizi Feng had once believed that time would help her forget it all, but seeing Wang Lin today had caused her to unconsciously bite her lip, drawing blood, as she remained frozen, gazing at the familiar yet unfamiliar figure in the sky. Not far from Shizi Feng, an old woman sat. Clearly, She did not have the right to sit on one of the meditation cushions, but her identity was none other than the matriarch of the Shizi family. She frowned, glancing at Shizi Feng, and sighed inwardly, a fateful connection. In midair, Wang Lin's expression remained calm as he surveyed the scene below. Most of the cultivators in the Luotian star domain were present, particularly those seated on the meditation cushions. Every single one of them possessed strength comparable to or even surpassing that of the blood ancestor. As all 325 teleportation arrays appeared in the sky, the contenders for the Immortal Ascension title revealed themselves. Yanlazi spoke again, his tone composed. This Immortal Ascension contest is divided into 3 trials, 6 realms, in the thread of heaven. The 3 realms, heaven, earth, and man, will test one's cultivation. The 6 realms of profound techniques will challenge the cycles of reincarnation and the path of refining the Tao mind. Those who pass the 3 realms and 6 paths will be selected as the 108 candidates. They will then enter the line of slaughter, where the top 36 with the highest kills will be honored with the title of Heavenly Guardians. They will have the chance to inscribe their names on the Immortal Sealing Stone. At this declaration, a wave of excitement surged through the Thunder Immortal Palace. Even those seated on the cushions around Yanlazi were stirred. Their gazes sharpened as they focused intently on Yanlazi. The patriarch of the Xiang family and the black-clad man from the Gongsun clan exchanged glances, both stunned by Yanlazi's words. Even Immortal Monarch Qishui opened his eyes, revealing a sharp coldness as he spoke in a low voice. Is this the Immortal Sealing Stone from the ancient Immortal domain that was left behind in the Thunder Immortal realm? It is said that this stone is a relic from the ancient Immortal domain. Anyone whose name can be inscribed upon it will have their name and spirit pierce through the void, directly transmitting to the lost ancient Immortal domain. Unexpectedly, this Immortal Sealing Stone is here in the Thunder Immortal Palace. The elderly man of the Xiang family's expression darkened slightly, and he spoke in a deep voice. Although the ancient Immortal domain has disappeared, there are rumors that remain. It is said that after countless years, the ancient Immortal domain will open once more, and this time, only those whose names are engraved on the Immortal Sealing Stone will be guided in. Though this is merely a rumor, it is the only clue left by the ancient Immortal domain. The middle-aged man from the Gongsun clan, with his eyes flashing with light, spoke calmly. A silence spread around them. Apart from a few people, nearly no cultivator knew what the Immortal Sealing Stone was, but from the words of the elderly man of the Xiang family and others, they immediately understood the significance of the stone. However, the name Ancient Immortal Domain was still unfamiliar to many cultivators, and they looked towards the ancestors of their respective families for clarification. When the Thunder Immortal realm collapsed, the Immortal Sealing Stone shattered into countless fragments. My Thunder Immortal Palace did not acquire any. There's no need to get entangled in this matter. It was that senior, after capturing the lunar beast, who sought me out personally and gave me a palm-sized Immortal Sealing Stone. Yanlazi said indifferently. At these words, the ancient monsters seated on the meditation cushions fell silent, no longer inquiring about the matter. The 3 trials of heaven, earth, and man. The first trial is the mortal trial. Those of you competing for the title of immortal, if you can endure for 10 breaths, you may pass. Luo Su, enter the thunder pool. Yanlazi's voice resonated, and a green light shot swiftly from the distant horizon. In front of Yanlazi and the others, this green light transformed into a figure, a middle-aged man dressed in a green robe. The man cupped his fist towards the crowd and said in a deep voice, "By the command of the palace master." As he spoke, his body took a step forward and descended onto the vast plaza. He stood on the green stone of the plaza, hands clasped behind his back, his expression calm but with a trace of arrogance showing through. His appearance immediately drew the attention of the surrounding cultivators, and naturally, some recognized his identity, sparking whispers among them. Luo Su from the Thunder Immortal Palace. It is said that his cultivation reached the mid-glimpse of Nirvana stage 300 years ago. Over the past 300 years, he has been in closed-door cultivation, but today, he appears as the guardian of the mortal trial. This Luo Su is no ordinary person, especially with his divine sense transformation. Even some renowned ancient monsters have praised his abilities. Whispers spread through the air, and Luo Su raised his head, looking up at the hundreds of young cultivators in the teleportation arrays. His expression remained calm as he spoke. "In my eyes, none of you are qualified to become one of the 108 immortals, because killing you would be no harder than squashing ants. Now, follow my instructions. When I point at someone, you will come down." As soon as these words left his mouth, Most of the cultivators in the teleportation arrays in midair turned their gaze to him, their eyes filled with cold light, especially Su Ting, whose eyes flashed with red, though he did not speak. Luo Su was not one for unnecessary words. With a casual flick of his right hand, he pointed at a cultivator from the northern Luo Tian region. The cultivator hesitated slightly after being pointed out, but in that brief moment of hesitation, Luo Su sneered coldly. His right hand reached out into the void, and in an instant, it transformed into a giant hand, sweeping through the air with a gust of wild wind. The surrounding cultivators could feel the force of the gale as it swept past. The giant hand was as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, it grasped the cultivator, showing no mercy as it yanked him down and threw him aside. The cultivator's face turned pale immediately. His cultivation was only at the deficiency stage, and once that giant hand grabbed him, a chilling cold immediately spread through his body, as if his primordial energy had been frozen. After landing, he quickly crossed his legs and sat down. Luo Su's eyes revealed impatience. He had no regard for this so-called immortal ceiling. If it were not for the palace master instructing him to guard this first trial, he would have rejected it outright. He would have long since continued his secluded cultivation, striving to reach the late glimpse of Nirvana stage. There was another reason, a more important one, why he agreed to guard the first trial. After throwing the cultivator aside, his impatience deepened. His divine sense expanded, and immediately, the surrounding skies and earth seemed to change. Luo Su's divine sense was extraordinary, able to manifest within his body. As it spread, it transformed into a golden-armored giant, stomping through the void with a thunderous sound. Once the giant appeared, it did not pause. Amidst the rumbling, it marched toward the cultivator seated on the ground. In just 3 steps, it reached him, and the golden-armored giant raised its right fist, swinging it forward with tremendous force. The punch, even before reaching its target, caused the cultivator's face to drain of color. His clothes were swept away by a fierce wind, his hair flying wildly. Wang Lin's gaze was sharp as a blade, locked onto the scene before him. Suddenly, just as the golden-armored giant's fist came crashing down, the targeted cultivator trembled violently, spat out a mouthful of blood, and his illusory form flickered. In the next instant, his essence spirit was forcibly expelled, flung out of his body, and shot backward at high speed, radiating sheer terror. With a cold snort, the golden-armored giant withdrew his fist and took a few steps back, standing silently beside Luo Su. Trash. With your level of cultivation and mental fortitude, you're not worthy of competing in the immortal Ascension war. Disqualified. Impatience deepened in Luo Su's eyes. Testing someone like this felt like a waste of his time. The cultivator's essence spirit returned to his body. Pale-faced, he glanced at Luo Su, opened his mouth as if to speak, but ultimately said nothing. After standing, he offered a slight bow and left in silence, stepping into the teleportation array. A flash of light, and he vanished. 325 cultivators, now 1 fewer. Luo Su frowned, his gaze sweeping over the cultivators in the sky. He casually pointed at one. The chosen cultivator gritted his teeth, descended, and landed on the plaza. Cupping his fist respectfully, he said, "Senior, please instruct me." Luo Su's expression eased slightly, but he said nothing. The golden-armored giant at his side stepped forward immediately, using the same divine technique as before, unleashing a devastating punch. The cultivator, teeth clenched, quickly formed a hand seal. Instantly, his body radiated white light, trying to hold off the giant. But under that punch, the light shattered in an instant. The cultivator stumbled back a few steps and bit his tongue, spitting out a mouthful of blood that turned into a misty shield. The giant's punch landed on the blood mist with a thunderous boom. The mist collapsed immediately. The cultivator's face went deathly pale and his body trembled. His essence spirit was more than halfway torn from his body, but with a roar of agony, a series of cracking sounds echoed from within him as he forcefully pulled it back. But the strain was immense. Though the essence spirit re-entered his body, his physical form instantly withered. You lasted 10 breaths. That counts as a pass. Still, with trash like you, even if you pass this round, you'll be eliminated in the next. Luo Su flicked his sleeve, and the cultivator's body was flung away. He bowed in midair and returned to the teleportation array to sit cross-legged. One after another, cultivators were called down by Luo Su. If they reacted quickly, they could avoid injury. But those who hesitated were dragged down by force, like the first, injured before the trial even began. As more and more cultivators descended into the plaza, insults like trash were hurled repeatedly. Even those who passed weren't spared the contempt. Gradually, Luo Su's impatience grew. Often, as soon as he pointed someone out, the golden armored giant would lash out with a punch. Time passed quickly. After the time of 2 incense sticks, more than half had been tested, with about 40% passing. Among the more powerful, such as the 6-fingered cultivator, the big-headed child, and Nan Gong'an, all passed without issue. Only during their tests did Luo Su appear somewhat less disdainful, refraining from calling them trash. "You come down." Luo Su pointed to someone inside the teleportation array. It was Su Ting of Donglin Star. A red light flashed in Su Ting's eyes, and a sinister grin crept onto his lips. Luo Su's gaze turned icy. He reached out into the void, and a massive spectral hand materialized, grasping directly towards Su Ting. At the same moment, Su Ting formed a hand seal. Black chi surged around him, morphing into a ghostly figure that roared and tangled with the spectral hand. Su Ting sneered and suddenly dove downward, not toward the plaza to await testing, but directly into action. As he flew, his hands met before him, then pulled apart. Black chi roared outward, condensing into a black chi spear in front of him. A glint of frost flashed in Luo Su's eyes. The golden armored giant stepped forward, charging straight at Su Ting. But with a manic laugh, Su Ting twisted his body midair, abandoning his rush toward Luo Su and instead darted toward the golden armored giant. The black spear in his hand shot forward with explosive force. The golden armored giant's right fist whipped out, but just as the two were about to collide, the spear twisted bizarrely, its tip dissolved, and in a heartbeat, it transformed into a strange black serpent. The snake was slender, but when it opened its jaws, it grew to dozens of zhang in size. The grotesque transformation stunned the surrounding cultivators, who all tensed. With its maw wide open, the serpent lunged and swallowed the golden armored giant whole. Wang Lin's pupil shrank sharply at the sight. Su family's immortal art, Serpent Devour. Elder Xiang of the Xiang family gave a slight nod, his eyes showing admiration. Impressive. Su Ting might very well be the strongest contender in this fight for the title of nobility. Another elder beside him nodded and smiled in agreement. Not only they, but also the surrounding onlookers, each of them had learned of this immortal art through the guidance of their family ancestors. One of the 4 great divine arts of the Su family from Donglin Star, the Serpent Devour, is an extremely profound technique. You all must witness its power. This technique, Serpent Devour, when used against cultivators with weaker cultivation levels, can often swallow not only the opponent's cultivation but also convert it into the caster's own strength. Immortal Monarch Qingshui's expression remained calm as he cast a cold glance at Su Ting without speaking. Luo Su's eyes glowed with a more intense coldness. However, realizing that the other party was from the Su family of Donglin Star, he forcibly suppressed his anger and snorted coldly, passable. After devouring the golden armored giant, Su Ting laughed maniacally. His body swayed as he whipped the black energy, which had transformed into a spear, and in a single step, he returned to the teleportation array. With a hint of provocation in his eyes, he looked toward Wang Lin. Luo Su's face darkened. He pointed again at the remaining individuals within the skybound teleportation array, but this time, his finger landed directly on Wang Lin. "You come down." Luo Su's gaze flickered slightly. He already knew Wang Lin's appearance. The other reason he had come to oversee the first trial was for Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged. With a single step, he calmly walked toward the plaza. Perhaps thinking Wang Lin's speed was too slow, Luo Su snorted and made a grabbing motion with his right hand. Immediately, a massive palm manifested, rushing directly toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin furrowed his brow slightly. As the enormous hand approached, it stirred up a gust of wind. The wind howled as it swirled toward Wang Lin. If he did not dodge or resist, even if he passed the mortal trial, he would still suffer injuries from the grasp. Wang Lin was not one to be easily bullied. At this moment, a flash of cold light appeared in his eyes, and his third eye at the center of his brow immediately opened. The red radiance blazed brightly, spreading out in a fan shape as he turned. It instantly enveloped the incoming palm. He did not pause, but continued to move forward. Under the red radiance, a series of booming sounds echoed. The giant hand, under this constant barrage of sounds, quickly shattered, disintegrating into nothingness. Wang Lin stepped through and landed on the plaza. He cupped his fist toward Luo Su and calmly said, "Please, teach me." Yin Lazy, sitting on his meditation cushion, watched the scene unfold with his eyes shining. He stared at the red light, as if enlightened, and his gaze toward Wang Lin carried a hint of admiration. This boy actually possesses such a divine ability. Although its power is not overwhelming, within this technique lies the Tao. Immortal monarch Qingshui's expression remained unchanged as he glanced at Wang Lin before withdrawing his gaze. Apart from the two of them, the old monsters sitting on their meditation cushions around the plaza all had their eyes light up. Only the blood god's son had a gloomy expression, silently mocking in his heart. Among the onlookers, only a few could recognize the extraordinariness of the third eye's red light. Shi Zifeng's ancestor sighed inwardly and muttered to himself, "This person is young, yet possesses such cultivation. He's not simple." Luo Su's expression grew even darker. The divine ability Wang Lin had just displayed had surprised him. Fixing his gaze on Wang Lin, he suddenly released his divine sense, sweeping it outward. Immediately, a golden-armored giant appeared. The giant's body shone with golden light, emitting a blinding brilliance. It charged forward, releasing an impact powerful enough to shock the very essence of one's spirit, heading straight for Wang Lin. After 3 steps, the golden-armored giant swung its fist. The punch contained a force specifically meant to target the spirit. Wang Lin had already observed this before. At this moment, his eyes flickered, and he quickly formed hand seals with both hands. As he did, a series of seals began to form before him. When the golden-armored giant arrived, these seals, with a flick of Wang Lin's right finger, erupted into action. Wang Lin's eyes were calm as he spoke. "Seal." Countless seals surged forth, surrounding the golden-armored giant. They immediately pressed tightly together, layer upon layer. As the giant neared Wang Lin, it found itself immobilized, completely sealed in place. Throughout all of this, Wang Lin had not moved a single step after landing on the plaza. He coldly glanced at Luo Su, then, ignoring the sealed golden-armored giant still frozen in the act of punching, turned and walked away. His black hair swayed with his movement, and under his white robe, he appeared extremely graceful. Though his appearance was plain, an indescribable aura surrounded him. Having passed the first trial so cleanly, all the cultivators around who had witnessed this scene couldn't help but look at him with new eyes. Su Ting's gaze flickered, his eyes focusing on Wang Lin, a red light flashing within. Shi Zifeng looked at Wang Lin, her heart racing. Her face flushed slightly, and images of him from the Thunder Immortal realm seemed to resurface before her. This person sealing technique is quite powerful. The 6-fingered cultivator furrowed his brow, eyeing the sealed golden-armored giant. Even the large-headed boy, who still wore a silly smile on his face, had a chilling undertone in his expression. Luo Su's face was as solemn as water as he stared at Wang Lin. In his mind, he recalled a great anger that had arisen 2 days ago, when he had walked out of his seclusion and learned that his cousin had been killed outside the teleportation array of the Thunder Immortal realm by someone named Sumu. That Sumu was currently in the Thunder Immortal Palace, one of the contenders for the immortal title. A cold glint flashed in Luo Su's eyes. He hadn't intended to kill this person here, but he would ensure that Sumu failed the first trial. That way, Sumu would be sent out of the Thunder Immortal Palace, and only then would it be the right moment for Luo Su to strike. With a cold snort, Luo Su's divine sense spread out. Immediately, the sealed golden-armored giant's entire body erupted with golden light, as if it had been infused with boundless power. With a single shake, the sound of cracking resonated as multiple seals shattered in an instant. The golden-armored giant then took a step forward, and a massive golden sword appeared in its right hand. It swung the sword toward Wang Lin with devastating force. At the same time, under the influence of Luo Su's divine sense, the golden-armored giant holding the sword suddenly expanded several times its size, becoming as tall as 100 zhang. On the vast plaza, 2 more golden-armored giants materialized, charging toward Wang Lin. The 3 golden-armored giants were too fast, creating a whirlwind as they barreled toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin quickly spun around, a cold light flashing in his eyes as he swiftly retreated. His hands formed seals, and immediately a series of barriers appeared before him to block one of the giants. At the same time, his right hand rose, swinging downward with a powerful slash. Dozens of severing Luo arts appeared instantly, merging with the barriers and piercing toward the second golden-armored giant. As for the third one, Wang Lin took a step forward, raising his right hand. The beast bone from the submother Dao suddenly writhed in his palm, transforming into a beast bone, glowing with eerie light, which immediately shrouded the area in a murderous aura. The third golden-armored giant's golden light dimmed, replaced by a flicker of gray radiance. Without hesitation, Wang Lin's right hand formed 2 fingers into a sword and pointed at the giant. With a loud bang, the golden-armored giant's body instantly collapsed. Simultaneously, the seals and severing Luo art struck, causing a thunderous roar as the other two golden armored giants also shattered. However, just as the three giants were collapsing, Luo Su moved. This was his first active move, aside from using divine sense. Moving at lightning speed, he took a single step forward, his speed so fast that before Wang Lin could react, Luo Su pressed a finger toward him. As Luo Su's finger pressed forward, his full cultivation, at the peak mid-glimpse of Nirvana stage, exploded with immense power. In an instant, the force came crashing down. Wang Lin's eyes flashed coldly as he retreated too late, and in the next moment, he opened his mouth and spat out the immortal sealing seal, placing it before him. Luo Su's finger landed on the immortal sealing seal, causing the seal to tremble violently. Wang Lin, still behind it, immediately felt a great force pushing against him. This power didn't harm his body, but it forced his essence spirit to fly out of his body. Although it was only a few inches before Wang Lin quickly pulled it back into his flesh, Luo Su's lips curled into a sinister smile as he withdrew his finger and stepped back. Not qualified. Luo Su flicked his sleeve and pointed at another person in the formation above, saying, "You, come down." This action of Luo Su's was somewhat risky, considering the ongoing Immortal Ascension War and the many onlookers. But given his special status within the Thunder Immortal Palace and the fact that he didn't feel he had overstepped, he wasn't too concerned. The cultivator pointed out in the sky was stunned but said nothing. Instead, he descended. But at that very moment, Wang Lin, who had been swept away by Luo Su's sleeve, suddenly revealed a murderous intent in his eyes. Not qualified? Wang Lin had come into the Immortal Ascension with the determination to not only win but to secure a top spot. Luo Su's words, however, had struck a nerve. If it were truly a matter of not qualifying, it would be acceptable. But this was clearly something Luo Su had done intentionally. Wang Lin's eyes flashed with a cold light, and with a single step, he closed in, his right hand swinging violently. Without even glancing at the cultivator falling from the sky, that cultivator immediately felt a gust of fierce wind and, upon seeing the murderous aura, quickly retreated, terrified. "You say I'm not qualified?" Wang Lin bellowed as he charged forward, an overwhelming killing intent emanating from his body. The mid-glimpse of Nirvana stage was not unattainable, and although he wasn't confident in fighting at that level, he couldn't just leave like this. Not with Qing Shui present. Wang Lin was unafraid. As he closed in, Wang Lin raised his right hand, and the wind-summoning art spread across the sky. Black winds howled, immediately darkening the heavens, as two black dragons materialized, roaring and charging toward Luo Su. Luo Su's eyes flickered with a cold smile. "You dare defy the will of the Thunder Immortal Palace." He took a step forward, releasing his full divine sense, and in an instant, 9 golden armored giants manifested and charged toward Wang Lin. The 9 giants, each towering at a height of 100 zhang, wielded massive swords. As they roared in unison, they charged straight at Wang Lin. Wang Lin laughed wildly, his laughter exuding an endless chill. With a pointed finger toward the sky, the Kunji whip immediately materialized in his hand. As the 2 black dragons roared, he swung it, and the sound of thunderous crashes echoed around them. The Kunji whip twisted and darted through the air. In the moment it was drawn, 3 golden armored giants were instantly shattered. With a murderous intent, Wang Lin charged toward Luo Su. Luo Su stared at the Kunji whip, his expression shifting slightly. A cold glint flashed in Qing Shui's eyes as he muttered to himself. "Now this is more like something my master Bai Fan would have under his command." As 7 more golden armored giants howled and charged at Wang Lin, his eyes flashed. Without pausing for even a moment, he darted forward. The Kunji whip led the way, swirling around him, rapidly expanding until it transformed into a 100 zhang immortal whip. As Wang Lin raised his right hand, it immediately formed in his grip. With a flick, the Kunji whip let out a piercing screech, like the wail of an evil spirit. In the midst of the howling sound, it lashed out with a deafening crash. A golden armored giant, rushing toward him with a clenched fist, was struck directly by the whip. With a violent tremor, it collapsed in an instant. The Kunji whip, originally black, now shed layers like skin, revealing finely scaled patterns as if it had undergone a transformation. Golden light poured from it, making the 100 zhang Kunji whip seem to absorb the power of the sun and moon. The sun became gold, the moon silver, and with this radiance, the whip darted like a dragon. As Wang Lin moved forward, the whip's path crackled with constant explosions, causing all the remaining golden-armored giants to shatter one by one. This scene left all the onlookers with their eyes wide open. Even the ancient monsters on the meditation cushions were intrigued. Early glimpse of Nirvana battling mid-glimpse of Nirvana. This is a rare sight. I recognize him, that's Su Mu. This magical artifact is incredibly sharp. It's clearly designed to target the primordial spirit. Luo Su's divine sense is unpredictable, yet he's met his match. Demon Path Scion Su Mu? No wonder he dares to fight Luo Su. Master. Shen Gonghu watched the battle between Wang Lin and Luo Su, his heart shaken. A surge of hot blood filled his veins, and he stared intently at Wang Lin. The respect in his eyes slowly turned into reverence. Though not yet fanatic, it had reached a considerable level. Zhang Konglai also observed the scene, taking a deep breath. He could vaguely sense the overwhelming fighting spirit in the elder. This fighting spirit, he knew, was driven by a force compelling the elder to win at all costs. Wang Lin's black hair fluttered as he charged straight toward Luo Su. Within 1,000 zhang radius, Luo Su's divine sense pressed down on him. Yet, moving forward felt like swimming through water. Wang Lin's eyes flashed with cold light. He formed a seal with his left hand, and at his signal, the two black dragons swirling around his body suddenly intertwined, forming a giant vortex. The vortex spun violently in an instant, a storm of wind and thunder roaring through the air. The two black dragons added their howls to the cacophony. In the center of the storm, Wang Lin's white clothes billowed as he shouted, "Break!" As soon as the words left his mouth, the vortex of black dragons exploded outward with a mighty crash. The sound of cracking filled the air, and the divine sense blockade, 1,000 zhang in radius, was instantly torn open. While Wang Lin's cultivation and divine sense were inferior to Luo Su's, his terrifying divine abilities and the magical artifacts specialized in attacking the primordial spirit gave him the upper hand. With the blockade shattered, the Kunji whip immediately swept out again. The deafening sound of its strike shattered the remaining divine sense in an instant, unraveling it into an invisible force that rapidly recoiled. Wang Lin moved like lightning, his figure darting through the opening. The two black dragons charged ahead, roaring and blowing chilling winds, heading straight for Luo Su. The cold winds spread out, instantly freezing the surrounding cultivators, as if they had stepped into an ice cave. Their faces turned pale in shock. Luo Su's expression darkened. A murderous glint flashed in his eyes. He immediately sat down cross-legged, hands forming a seal. He ignored the oncoming black dragons and their chilling winds, instead closing his eyes. With my mid-glimpse of nirvana cultivation, if I can't kill you, then all my thousands of years of cultivation have been for nothing. The moment Luo Su closed his eyes, an immense divine sense surged from within him, forming countless sharp needles. Surrounding him, divine sense transformed into thousands of needles. They quickly assembled, and as they took shape, they shot out like a barrage, whistling through the air, targeting Wang Lin. Each of these sharp needles contained Luo Su's divine sense transformation. This was the divine art that had made him famous, praised by many senior experts as a supreme skill. Among cultivators, almost all divine abilities are derived from the internal force, with very few techniques that involve attacks using the essence spirit. However, when it comes to divine sense attacks, every cultivator's mind is struck with shock. Divine abilities formed from internal force can be resisted, but those created by divine sense target the essence spirit directly. Once the essence spirit is wounded, the damage could range from serious injury to even death, depending on the severity. The God Damage seal used by Yao Bingyun years ago is an example of this. However, this seal was a combination of primordial energy and divine sense, which, in some ways, does not qualify as a complete divine sense attack. While it had its effects, it also had its flaws. But now, the technique used by Luo Su is a perfectly executed divine sense attack, with no involvement of primordial energy, making it even more powerful. It is precisely because he has dedicated his cultivation entirely to divine sense that he can, despite his cultivation being only at the mid-glimpse of Nirvana stage, hold such a high position in the Thunder Immortal Palace. You attacked first. I only resist. Now, prepare to die. Luo Su growled, suddenly opening his eyes wide. Instantly, countless divine sense needles shot out in all directions, closing in on Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes flashed with cold light, and with a cold grunt, he quickly formed hand seals and pushed forward. Two black dragons materialized with a roar of wind, charging forward with gusts of cold air. They clashed with the oncoming divine sense needles, seeming to pass through each other, and the black dragons continued toward Luo Su. Meanwhile, the divine sense needles rapidly approached Wang Lin. His expression remained calm. If it had been another cultivator at the mid-glimpse of Nirvana stage, they would have had a very hard time. After all, the gap between each small realm and cultivation is immense. But Luo Su was using divine sense techniques. If it had been anyone else, they would have been troubled, as the difference in cultivation also reflects the strength of the essence spirit. In this case, a clash of divine sense would quickly determine the victor. But Wang Lin didn't see this divine sense attack as a threat. As the divine sense needles shot toward him, he spun his kunji whip, sweeping across with a loud series of crashes. Large groups of divine sense needles shattered, but the sheer number of them meant some still managed to penetrate the kunji whip and strike his body. The divine sense needles turned into a frenzied force that rushed toward his essence spirit. However, as soon as they made contact with his essence spirit, they collided with his ancient god leather armor and instantly shattered. Under the protection of the ancient god leather armor, this level of divine sense attack was completely ineffective. At this moment, the black dragons approached Luo Su, who grinned fiercely. He quickly formed a hand seal and focused on the space between his brows, where a brilliant green light flashed. This green glow surged outward, transforming into a venomous green serpent. The serpent opened its mouth wide, revealing its sharp, poisonous fangs. With a shrill hiss, it darted out. When the kunji whip struck, the serpent split in two and swiftly moved toward Wang Lin's body from both sides. The green serpents entered Wang Lin's body, releasing unimaginable force that shot toward his essence spirit. One of them, moving quickly, opened its fangs to devour him, but it sank into the ancient god leather armor with a loud bang. Its fangs shattered, yet the serpent's ferocity remained. It slammed into the armor. Upon striking the ancient god leather armor, the serpent transformed into a cloud of green gas, desperately trying to penetrate into Wang Lin's essence spirit. At that moment, the second serpent arrived, mouth agape, and lunged forward. The ancient god leather armor trembled violently. The second green serpent let out a terrible cry before it too collapsed and turned into green gas, trailing along the armor. The deadly nature of the inner battle of the essence spirit was nearly imperceptible to outsiders, but with even the slightest mistake, death would follow. Wang Lin's face turned pale, his eyes flashing with murderous intent, yet he endured the assault. In a sudden motion, his right hand formed two fingers into a sword and lunged toward Luo Su. Luo Su's pupils contracted sharply, his eyes filled with terror. He exclaimed, "Impossible." He could not believe that his mid-glimpse of Nirvana stage divine sense attack had caused no harm to his opponent. This completely defied his thousands of years of cultivation experience. Even with a magical artifact to protect the divine sense, my cultivation is a small realm above his, and I've been focused on divine sense techniques for thousands of years. Even if there is an immortal treasure protecting the essence spirit, there's no way this person would be completely unharmed. Luo Su was shaken. The two black dragons roared toward him, preparing to devour him. Luo Su's face went pale. His primordial energy-based abilities were far weaker than his divine sense techniques, but his cultivation was still at the mid-glimpse of Nirvana stage, and he had many magical artifacts. At this moment, he slapped his storage pouch, and a small drum appeared in his hands. He tossed it into the air, and it immediately grew larger. As the black dragons charged toward him, the drum emitted booming sounds, accompanied by a violent wind. However, under the shadowy winds of the two black dragons, the drum immediately vibrated, and the sound abruptly ceased. As Russell retreated, he pointed at the giant drum and shouted, "Drum burst!" The drum trembled and instantly collapsed. A surge of power emanated from within, creating a shockwave that swept up one of the black dragons, causing it to crash violently into the other. A thunderous roar echoed through the surroundings, and the shockwave reverberated in the ears of the cultivators nearby. As the drum burst dissipated, one of the black dragons shattered into countless fragments of wind, scattering into the air. Wang Lin's figure flickered like lightning. The moment the dragon dissipated from the drum burst, he charged forward, stepping onto the other black dragon with murderous intent, heading straight for Russell. Wang Lin knew that Russell's divine sense art had been disrupted. His mind was shaken, leaving a gap. If he didn't seize this opportunity to strike, once Russell recovered his divine sense, another battle would surely ensue. Especially when Russell unleashed his primordial power divine ability, the slightest mistake could lead to defeat. Although Qing Shui was present, his death was unlikely, but his qualifications would be lost forever. As he charged forward, Wang Lin raised his right hand, and the immortal sealing seal erupted with a deafening roar, speeding toward Russell at an incredible pace. Russell's face turned pale, but his eyes flashed with a sharp gleam. He no longer worried about the disruption of his divine sense art. Instead, he quickly formed a hand seal, and a massive surge of primordial energy gathered within him, transforming into a ball of thunder and fire in his palm. Just as he was about to throw it, Wang Lin's eyes flashed with murderous intent, and he shouted, "Freeze!" The word freeze struck Russell immediately. He felt countless threads of force wrapping around him from the void. He struggled briefly and broke free, but at that moment, the immortal sealing seal was already descending upon him. At the same time, tens of thousands of golden runes exploded into the air, rapidly expanding and flooding toward Russell. Inside, Russell's heart sank. Primordial power divine ability was not his strongest skill. His greatest strength lay in his divine sense art. However, now that it had no effect on his opponent, he felt a bitter frustration. After breaking free from the immobilization, Russell threw the thunderfire ball into the air. It exploded, expanding in the blink of an eye to over 10 zhong in size, forming a massive fiery mouth. With a thunderous roar, it lunged at the immortal sealing seal. As the flames consumed it, the immortal sealing seal was covered in fire, yet it remained unharmed, continuing to slam down with unrelenting force. With a deafening crash, the immortal sealing seal descended, and Russell's body flashed away, his face dark, clothes tattered, his eyes tinged with red. "I don't believe you can resist my divine sense art forever," Russell said through bloodshot eyes as he charged toward Wang Lin. As he moved, his divine sense dispersed, and with both hands raised, he quickly struck forward. Waves of divine sense rippled out, heading straight for Wang Lin. Breaking free from the immobilization art, Wang Lin's mind shook, and he suffered a backlash. As he ran, he reached into his storage pouch, took out a nascent soul from his soul banner, and swallowed it to replenish his primordial energy. Meanwhile, Russell did not retreat but pressed forward, sending layer upon layer of divine sense waves crashing toward Wang Lin. The Kunji whip swept through the air, blocking the incoming waves. Those that hit the whip shattered instantly, but some still pierced through, landing on Wang Lin's flesh. Wang Lin's face grew pale. Though his ancient god leather armor was powerful, the shock still reached his nascent soul. His eyes gleamed with killing intent as he stepped forward, and with a wave of his hands, he condensed his primordial energy. With a hand seal, his fingers formed a sword, and the severing luo art materialized. Waves of severing luo strikes erupted as he charged forward. As Russell and Wang Lin accelerated, their movements became blindingly fast. One used divine sense attacks and primordial energy defenses, while the other used primordial energy attacks and divine sense defenses. They engaged in an earth-shattering battle in the air. Boom, boom. The sounds of their clash were deafening, and the battle only grew fiercer. Enough. At the peak of their battle, Yen Lazy frowned and shouted lowly. With his shout came a surge of massive primordial energy that burst into the space between the two combatants, causing a violent explosion that sent them both flying backward. Qing Shui's eyes flashed with killing intent. He coldly snorted, and his right eye glowed with red light as the extreme realm flickered and erupted.